But let's focus the conversation into our first matchup we're going to be seeing today to break it open for our second UMG Arena Invitational course. That has to be Ghost and Noble. Ghost, last time on set, you had a chance to watch them. They were incredible. They were showing, honestly, I loved watching them with Phase Runner, by the way. The fact that one of the players literally crawled the entirety of the map to get onto a flank. It was a brilliant play, it really was. But six Pandxrz Metro are just literally disgusting. We saw amazing plays from them. Going into this series, what else can we expect from Ghost?
I think the Ghosts are going to want to at least match their performance. I think they'll want to rematch with G2 at some point as well. It's one of those things that stays in the back of your mind, right? G2, you know, they were very confident, as they always are, going into a tournament, and they backed it up. But if you're Ghost Gaming and you got to a point where, you know, you face up against G2 again, if you beat them, if you get that rematch and you manage to take them down, then all of a sudden, when it comes to whatever game it is, if you go back into a BR and we see those two teams match up, it's not a case of, G2 are going to roll them. It's a case of, you know, these two teams are supremely talented. And I think that Ghost Gaming, again, is one of those teams we don't see a huge amount of their POV when we go to Battle Royales, because there are so many teams and so many, you know, different pieces of action going on at once. But to actually watch these three players play together in arenas and see how individually talented they are, I think they want to at least match what they did last time.
Yeah, Gaskin, that's a great point that was brought up last time we had a chance to cast, or at least, you know, for the last UMG Arena Invitational, was the fact that when it comes to BR, we're focused on so many different teams, different POIs, rotations. You know, you're trying to get the juicy fights that are taking place, of course, that end game. Now we get a chance to put a spotlight on these teams. Ghost Gaming was one of them. Noble this time around has a chance to have the spotlight on them, so they're going to want to make a deep run. You know, going into this matchup for Noble, what do you think they need to do to perform well?
I think map selection is going to be extremely important. Just try and take Ghost Gaming out of their comfort zone, but clearly that's not going to be an easy thing to do. Sure. I think for Noble, they'll hope that Ghost Gaming is probably just going to disrespect them slightly. Maybe feel like this is going to be an easy game. They'll push aggressively. They'll try and play fast. They'll try and go for quick rounds. And if Noble just sit ever so slightly passively at first, wait for that aggression, try and catch a couple of players off guard, maybe they can turn this around and turn it into their favor.
Wow, so the aggression, the disrespect. I would love to see that. I really would. The trash talk is what makes me excited as a host, as a spectator, as a commentator, right? I love seeing that battle of the minds, the battle of the wits, the battle of the bronze. Let's take a look at our maps, though, because Gaskin, you said you wanted to see this one and see maybe if we can take Noble, can take Ghost outside of their comfort zone. So talk me through this, Gaskin. Overflow, Party Crasher, Artillery, Thermal Station, Phase Runner. The 6 maps played competitively. Obviously, we're missing one. These are going to be your 5 in the best of 5. How's it looking to you?
Yeah, I think this will be pretty good. I think Thermal Station will be an interesting one if we get that far, because it can be very close quarters at times.
Sure.
Artillery, of course, you've got the high ground, so it's important with legend selection there. Sometimes you'll see Pathfinders come to the equation. I think Noble will give this a good go, but I think with Overflow and Party Crasher being the initial 2 maps, I'm expecting Ghost Gaming to go up 2-0 here, but Artillery, that's a mismatch for me. I don't know how that one will go.
All right, well, onset, I mean, last time we had a chance to watch Ghost, they did a phenomenal job on Overflow. They also did a great job on Artillery. Artillery, obviously, Gaskin mentioning the high ground. That was Metro playing his Octane, right? Using that jump pad to get those guys to high ground, take the advantage. And on an Overflow, you got to give Pandxrz the respect. His Pathfinder play on Overflow last month was incredible. Yeah, these first 3 maps are going to be tough for Noble. Ghost might have the leg up here. What are you thinking?
I agree with you. I think Ghost are certainly the favorites going into this map selection. I like the map selection as well. I think it's some of the best maps we have in Arena, especially the first couple. I really like Overflow. I think a lot of players like it as well. The way it plays, you're kind of forced into battles quite early on. And then when we go over to Party Crasher, I think we've had some of the most explosive moments in arenas happen on Party Crasher, where you know, people have been forced to fight very quickly, or there's been standoffs and then those gaps be closed very quickly after the initial damage, and you have sort of this full-on 3v3 brawl. So I love the fact that we're starting today with those 2 maps, not only because we're starting the series off with the 2 maps, but starting the tournament off with them. So I think we're going to have a lot of action. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it goes back to Gaskin's original point. You know, Ghost might be trying to get into Noble's face, be aggressive. And those first 3 maps are all about aggression, right? You know, in your face, you love to see it. Maybe Ghost is going right with the strategy. And who knows, Noble obviously had a hand in picking those maps, and they're going to be confident on the ones they're playing. But I'm gassing up Ghost a lot, you know, and obviously, for me, I think they're the favorite. I really do. But I got to ask the experts. So Gaskin, starting off with you, brother, for your prediction for this series. I mean, you got 2 great teams, but which one is the greatest in your mind?
I usually like to be edgy with my predictions to try and go against the grain and see if I can just pip people at the beginning, but it was hard to go against Ghost here. After their performance last time, I think they are heavy winners, and it would be a shame to see them lose, but it also would be a massive surprise if Noble were able to take this one.
All right, Onset, you like to fight Gaskin, so are you going to fight him in this case? Are you going to go against the grain, go with Noble? What are you thinking?
I like to fight Dan. I just like to keep him in line. That's all it is, okay? It gets a bit carried away. You see, like the good friend always tells you, you know? When like the bad friend is one who just constantly tells you everything's okay. With me and Dan, it's an understand. I'm going with Ghost. I'm rambling. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going with Ghost. I'm going to copy Dan's predictions the entire time so that he cannot win. It's very simple. My theory today.
Fair enough. And Gaskin, let me just say this first and foremost. Your hair is looking phenomenal. My hair is looking great. Onset, what's going on with you?
Mate, I haven't got any. I mean, it can't look. How can it look? You know what I mean? How can it? And also, very edgy subject to bring up when Dan's around and predictions are around. Because let's just say, there was a recent tournament where Dan said, if they win this, I will shave my head. Has he shaved his head? No, he hasn't.
He didn't honor it? Gaskin, you didn't honor it?
And this isn't on me, by the way, Dan. I didn't bring this up, okay? I didn't bring this up. So
why have you got to throw me under the bus as well? I was not okay with the comment about your hair, by the way. I think
I'm defending you.
Reflections is unfair from you. But no, I didn't honor it. I did say, if this happens, I will shave my head. It was something that should have never happened, by the way.
But it happened, and you got to honor it.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was like a 1 in 1 million chance of happening, and it happened. And I'm.
But
like,
it happened.
I love my hair. I could have.
1 in a million chance to win the lottery. But if you win the lottery, you're going to give all the money back. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Exactly. You're going to keep the money if you win the lottery, no matter how much the odds are stacked against. Chat, who are you going with? You going with Ghost or Noble? Ghost across the board. Noble, it's up to you, obviously, to prove everybody wrong. Gaskin, I was trying to defend you, man, and throw some fire your way, but I got to get out of here. I guess I was a little bit too edgy on that one. Onset, Gaskin, it's going to be a great first matchup. Woo! Take it away.
I'm ready to fight. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm ready to go. Dan, I don't know what's happening today. Like, this is the kind of fire I want to start off a show with. But Dan, how are you, mate? You all right? What's going on? Talk to me.
I thought that the whole community would have forgotten about the fact that I was going to shave my head, but now it's back, and I'm going to get everyone tweeting me saying, "Oh, you haven't shaved your head." I did shave my head. It's just growing back really fast. All right, that's what happened.
Such a liar. Anyway, let's talk about our first game of the day, because I'm excited. I've got to be honest with you. It's always wonderful to cast with you, Dan, even though it seems like today, for some reason, we hate each other, but we don't really, obviously. Let's talk about the match. Ghost Gaming versus Noble. Ghost Gaming, a wonderful performance from them last time, and a team who only Girl was backing all the way. She knew something we didn't, but I mean, she was right the whole time, and I think today they're going to look to solidify their position as one of the best arenas teams, certainly in North America.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Girl used to play with one of these players quite regularly, so she would have known about their individual ability. I fairly certainly remember saying her saying something about that during the ALGS when we did feature them ever so slightly when they had like a top 3 placement or something. So I can understand why she's backing them, and for good reason. Like, they have performed well in the previous tournament. It should carry on over into this one. As I say, I wonder how much confidence they'll have coming into this, though. Like, when you know you are better than another team, when you know you should be finishing in the top 3, you are going to run at them. There is going to be an element of disrespect. If you play too scared and allow them into the game, then that is going to be able to flip things in their favor. So I'm expecting them to be very aggressive here.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this does. Have in arenas, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing kicks off, because I feel like teams are kind of forced into early engagements here. There isn't a huge amount of room sort of side to side on this map. It's very linear in the way that you can see lots of lines of sight for teams to get poke damage, but once you do Dan, it's very easy to close that gap and to get those finishes and be super aggressive, which we always love to see.
Yeah, and that could just, favor Ghost Gaming, who we imagine are going to be playing quite aggro. They are going to be playing composition with Loba just to ensure they can get all the utility they may need, whether that be bats or meds, whatever is going to come out of the pills. But look at who's alongside Loba. Octane, and you've got Pathfinder. This is very much a dive composition. As soon as there is that damage that you spoke about, you can jump on another team.
Interesting to see the Mozambique's been leveled up as well to blue bolts, not the purple straight away. So obviously a little bit of investment elsewhere to make sure that there were some other resources to be shared around, but you can see Noble at the moment, more Wingman Mozambique, more standard early picks from what we can see for them for weaponry, as Lucas is looking to make a little bit of a shimmy and a shake up. And they've got the middle of the control of the map here, which is something we talked about last time, Dan. Loba, although you do get the meds, sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit of map control.
Yeah, and that means they're not going to be able to get this drop, and that means that you're not going to see a Loba have a weapon in round 1, because all of that would have been spent on black market or your credits, so it's just going to be a Mozambique and a P2020, maybe an RE45 for the Loba, so certainly Ghost Gaming will be slightly behind in that element. And then when we look at the composition of Noble, they've got the Gibraltar. This means that they could go for a bubble fight. We've just seen them pick up a shotgun as well. The Peacekeeper is going to be in hand. So if Noble can close the gap, they could drop the bubble. There could be a great chance of winning this 3v3 engagement.
Well, Lucas is going to have to pop a battery here, which would maybe suggest that he hasn't got any cells to work with. Just 2 cells, remember, for these players in round number 1. So when you do see that chip damage start to whittle down a little bit, it becomes a little bit more difficult to find yourself in a position where you haven't got to take a fight. Speaking of that, Pathfinder versus Loba. Loba, he's going to win that one with a left hook, and that's going to be 2 down, I think, on the side against Ghost Gaming. And Noble now only Impulse on his own. On the Wraith, jumping into the void to maybe create a little bit of a space, but it doesn't look like it's good news here in round number 1 here for Noble.
Well, both members of Ghost were weak, though, but it doesn't matter because pinged out of the sky, Ghost Gaming will take the first round. Against the grain, I'd say Noble very much had the health advantage going into that. A couple of whiffed shots with the Peacekeeper on the side of Noble. Great work with the Mozambique, and as you say, the left hook to finish things off really changed the tide of that fight. But Ghost Gaming, I think, will be very delighted that they've been able to turn that one in their favor, because they probably shouldn't have, if I'm completely honest. Looking at what Noble had, looking at the fact they had been able to get weapons out of the crate as well, this is a bad start for Noble.
Yeah, just looking over at Ghost Gaming once again, and it's going to be interesting to see how Loba is played, because one thing I noticed from the last tournament that we kind of casted was there is a counterplay to Loba, like we mentioned, and that is just W key. Get forward as quickly as you possibly can and kind of isolate Loba. You can get shots down on the 2 players. You can create a 3v2 situation if you just get up as quickly as you can. But however, looking across composition-wise here with Octane and Pathfinder, maybe that's not as easy to do, because they do have the ability to get up to middle map quite quickly, at least show presence, which is going to slow a team down as Loba can then rejoin the rest of the composition.
Yeah, especially as we get further into the rounds, right, when there's more credits available, you can spend them on those ultimates from Pathfinder and Octane. Nice little shredding ability from the flatline there by Pandxrz, and now Ghost Gaming will have this advantage. They forced the bubble from Noble, and they're looking to try and initiate a fight here.
Wingman in the hands of Metro. Frag grenade going to be tossed his way, but going to be able to avoid that one nice and easily as he uses the stim to just increase that strafe speed and that movement speed a little bit quicker. And it doesn't matter about movement speed when you're hitting shots like that. Double 45 and a 45 to a teammate. Lots of numbers popping up from the Wingman here of Metro as he's looking very, very strong in this initial engagement.
Let's go here.
Supply drop is there for the taking, but it's a risk to go for it. Again, good shots coming out from Metro. Does have 3 batteries to work with. This is the benefit of being able to have the Loba, getting a couple of extra bats from the pills that are on the ground. And Ghost Gaming haven't got too aggressive here. They are not disrespecting Noble, but they are out-damaging them at the moment. Another 104. And again, as we move across to Noble, you look how weak Impulse is.
Yeah, this isn't good. 2 players fall very quickly. As soon as they got that initial knock, Ghost were not afraid to push, and now it's just a matter of finishing off this final kill. They managed to locate it. They managed to eliminate the final player, and that's going to be 2-0 down, and already we're on map point.
Yeah, you'd expect Ghost really to be picking this one up somewhat comfortably. Noble have given it a good go. They've got map positioning, but it's just the shots that have been coming out from Ghost, whether it be from the flatline, whether it be from the Wingman. They've just been hitting everything. They have the economic advantage now through credits because they have been getting more kills, and Noble firmly on the back foot are going to have to reassess how they want to play this one. Either they need to go for what you were talking about, really try and counter that Loba by, as quick as possible, diving to the center of the map, trying to get some damage, and then jumping on the other team with the bubble, or they need to just be hitting shots a little bit better. Maybe now that they've got more credits, they might have some weapons they're a little bit more comfortable with.
There's going to be a similar strategy here from Ghost. Loba going to be bringing up the rear, so to speak, as the 2 players move forward to show presence early on. An Arc Star going to be delivered through the letterbox here, and there will be a frag grenade as both players decide not to shoot each other, just to exchange grenades. And Ghost looking to clear this one up here, Dan. Trying to get aggressive as already we're seeing Metro get some shots down on the Gibby. And I'll tell you what, not just getting some shots down, but pretty much out-damaging massively the Gibraltar player, who is one shot now. Rack will go down, and while we're watching one kill go down, the other two have fallen alongside it. Ghost Gaming close out map number 1.
Yeah, they were able to isolate Gibby there, force out the bubble really early, noticed that he wasn't going to be able to get any sort of support from his teammates, so he just jumped straight on top of Gibraltar like a big old bouncy castle, and Ghost will take a victory 3-0 here in map number 1. As we expected, I think, Noble, they showed a little bit of kind of oomph in round number 1, but I think that slowly faded and Ghost realized that they are the better team here.
Yeah, Ghost certainly showing their dominance in that first map. It wasn't really close, to be honest with you. As you say, there was round 1, which was a little bit of damage being exchanged, but I was really impressed with the way the Metro played. I feel like as we're seeing the game evolve, we're seeing arenas develop, and we're seeing, you know, teams get used to what each other are doing. Having an Octane when you're playing Loba that is going to be extremely aggressive off the rip is vital, because otherwise you do allow a team to move up and command space almost without challenge. So I think that he did a really good job there of not being afraid to actually engage in early battles, engage in early fights, and then using that stim to get out if you had to.
And round 1 was really important for Ghost as well. As you say, if you're running a Loba, it means you're not going to have necessarily a weapon advantage in round number 1, so you either have to get the supply trait that drops, or you need to just get aggressive and push together when there is damage. And Ghost did the latter. There was a 3v3 engagement, there was a little skirmish inside the bubble, and they were hitting shots with the Mozambique. Despite the Peacekeeper being on the other side, which obviously hits harder, does more damage, doesn't matter if you're missing the shot. So Ghost taking full advantage of that. Now they go into map 2 knowing that they have the upper hand here, and that may transition them to be even more aggressive. Round 1, they certainly sat off a little bit. They wanted to feel it out. How are they going to play here, Noble? As soon as they knew that was round 2 and round 3, it was going their way.
It was impressive stuff. And then now we move over to Party Crasher, which is another map where you have that initial standoff, you have a little bit of poke damage, but depending on where the ring goes, I feel like there's a difference in aggression per side. When we get to the what should I say, the misdriven Mirage Voyage, that word, misdriven, crashed is much better, isn't it? Crash is much better English.
Party Crash, then I think Crash works.
That works, yeah. So we'll call it the crash side of Party Crasher, where Mirage Voyage has unfortunately found itself semi-buried. That side seems a little bit more standoff-like to me. When you get to the other side, which we'll call the staging side, it seems like there's a little bit more fast-paced action over there, which I feel like early ring pull here, I talk about momentum a lot in arenas because I feel like you can get down on yourself very quickly, especially after a 3-0 drubbing like we've just seen for Noble. If it goes to that side early on and Ghost Gaming do get the advantage, I feel like this could not only be maybe the first round going their way, but maybe just the series, because I don't think there's many ways back. If you go down 4-0 in rounds cumulatively, you know, after map number 1 and we go into map number 2, you're down on yourself so hard. It's so difficult to drag yourself back up. Also, personally, I quite like Mirage Voyage semi-buried on that side as a call-out. I think that works. I think that is very quick. It's efficient.
It rolls off the tongue. It's nice. Yeah. It's easy. Everyone will know where you mean. But you're right. The pull is going to be everything here. There is 2 different ways to play. As always, you can be very aggressive. We saw a lot of Devo strats when it came to this map, especially round 2 and 3 when the Octane bounce pad can come out. We saw in the last Arenas tournament that we commentated, not the UMG one, but one just a couple of weeks ago, the Devotion was shredding. And it was very difficult to counter 3 people just kind of hurling themselves through the sky towards you. So you need to be aware that that could happen. I don't think it's going to happen in this game, but it's certainly something that might be there and available for them if they want to go for it.
We'll have to see how it does play out. For Noble, though, what's going to change, Dan? Because there was no map presence, I felt like, in that first game, and they were really put on the back foot almost immediately by the way the Metro was playing on Octane, doing that damage initially, but not being afraid to try and push the advantages here. How do they adjust?
I think it all comes down to the in-game leader, really. There was a few times where they had done damage, but they didn't take advantage of that damage. They weren't fighting as well as a 3. Instead, there was a lot of 1v1 engagements that they were just unfortunately losing. If they can target Ghost a little bit better, single out one player, or at least when they are in a 3v3, make sure they're all focusing the same target to try and take that damage advantage, they might be okay here. But I feel like that's where they're really lacking. Their focus just doesn't seem to be as good as Ghost's.
Well, here we go then. Map number 2 of our best of 5 series. And no surprise to see Ghost Gaming will be playing with the same composition that we saw them take a convincing 3-0 lead. And that's one thing that we should say about Loba as well. If you can get LEQ on board with the Bangle, you can join your teammates after getting those initial meds on board. But this is the stage inside that we were mentioning previously, and it doesn't look like it might be pulling this way. Well, actually, excuse me, it will be pulling this way. So early engagements will be going down, and this could be bad news here for Noble. But if they take it, then it could just restore that confidence a little bit.
Yeah, confidence is what they need. Just belief that they actually can win the team fights, because they were unable to win just a single one. Ghost Gaming trying to get some shots with the wingman. As soon as there is damage, they do have the possibility to dive on the other team already. But they're more than happy to just bide their time at the moment. Supply drop has come in, and that might be where Ghost Gaming are going to try and get to. Try and get a better weapon for 6 after he bought the black market with his credits.
There's poke damage at the moment. The Loba does give them the opportunity to play this way, of course, because you do have those extra meds, and you will be able to out-economy your opponent. For now, Pandxrz showing the importance of Pathfinder as well. So many spots on these arena maps where you can get ultimate high ground and get a little bit of poke damage and also escape as well. At the moment, both teams just kind of staring each other in the eyes and nobody really wanting to take the fight too much as Metro gets a little bit of shield damage there with the wingman. But still, stalemate here in round number 1.
And sometimes this happens in arenas where you do just have a very much of a standoff where it's just damage for damage. Try and deplete the utility of your opposition, get rid of all those resources, and then when you have an idea that you have an advantage when it comes to bats or shields, that's when you push in. Noble trying to make the move here, trying to get underneath Ghost.
Metro's been taken down to a place where he will have to maybe pop a couple of shield cells if he does have them. Noble playing the low ground, like you mentioned, making that move and not taking too much damage on their way across as well. But you feel like the next engagement will be the one which decides how this round goes, as everyone will be pretty low on meds, and if there's one team who doesn't have any meds at all, then all of a sudden, any damage done, they're going to be forced to fight. However, Pandxrz getting more chip damage. Might create a little bit of an opening here for Metro and 6. You see them trying to sniff around here, Dan, and trying to maybe think about getting a finish onto Impulse, who doesn't have any shields to play with.
Yeah, the best teams will know how many cells, how many bats you forced out of the other team, and when you should be pushing in. Here's the bubble. They are going to try and take the high ground here. 6 is going to dive above them. Lucas very low, as well as Impulse. Noble struggling again here.
Going to grapple in, but he's just going to grapple in to a shotgun bullet, and he's going to be put on his back. And once again, it's a clean wipe, and it's methodical. It's almost medical in the way that they've taken them apart. Ghost Gaming 1-0 here, and Noble just looking a little bit lost at the moment, Dan. It looks like they're not really sure on how they want to approach things. Do they want to be aggressive? Do they want to stand up? They're kind of letting Ghost dictate the pace of play here. Yeah,
there was a lot of pings that were coming out, and usually you'd think pings are going to be like, oh, there might be a person here, or they should be dropping here, but I feel like it was like, where should we be going? Like, honestly, they did look a little bit lost at some points. They went for the low ground rather than just taking the fight when they had done a little bit of damage, and for me, that just shows that they're not confident in their gun ability against Ghost Gaming, which you can understand, right? Ghost Gaming did perform excellently in the last tournament, and they have absolutely smashed them in map number 1. So the confidence isn't going to be there from Noble, but you've got to turn around that confidence yourself. And sometimes that is just by being a little bit more aggressive, having a little bit more belief that you are going to hit your shots.
Or it's throwing 300 grenades, which is what they just tried to do there. And unfortunately, Metro spotted what had happened and decided to make the call to play underneath here. So, what did you call this side of the map again? Mirage Voyage crashed into the ground,
semi-buried under the ground. Yeah.
Okay, that's the side of the map we're on right now.
Yeah.
So the grenades didn't hit. And now it's a little bit of a standoff, as you can see that Ghost Gaming are just trying to hold the inside here, hold these doors, and they're happy for the close-range battle to kick off whenever it does need to. 1-0 up as well in the games, meaning that they can let Noble make the play.
Explore this way. Well, not just that, they're going to have the eco advantage. They're going to have a little bit more credits, especially if they were able to kind of get the credit pods as well. So Noble will know that, even though there were some grenades that were spent, unused, he didn't do anything. So now Impulse trying to get back into a position where he can be with the team after going towards the supply drop. Noble still having the high ground, so Ghost Gaming need to have a little think here. Do we move first? Do we allow Noble to move first? Or do we just take this engagement? As you can see, the circle is going to move in slightly.
Metro, I felt for you there. I know when that happens, you try and close the door, you don't quite get there, and all of a sudden you find 2 players up in your face, and he will be taken down. Rack will get the first kill here. Pandxrz on a nice flank here, but Lucas will take one down. Pandxrz does managed to make that flank work for now, as he manages to make this a 2v1, or a 1v2, I should say. However, it's only momentary, as now Pandxrz will come back in. 1 HP, a dream, a wish, and an awful grapple. And that's going to be the end of things here, as Noble will tie things up.
Yeah, that's good from Noble. They managed to isolate Metro. They realized he was on the door. They all pushed together and absolutely sliced him up. As you mentioned, maybe there was a little bit of hesitation there, or just accidentally not being able to close the door, or maybe he did close the door, but it just didn't actually close. Ghost Gaming will be a little bit frustrated, but I don't think they'll be too disheartened. Noble just taking advantage of an extra man. A good effort from Pandxrz to try and get behind, but I think once that res was tapped with the bubble, he was never really going to be able to win that 1 versus 3 despite taking down the resurrected player. So 1-1. And again, a chance to dive into the economy for both of these players. It's going to be slightly better for Noble now. Ghost will still have the Loba to take some of those resources, get some batteries. So Ghost should have plenty of bats to work with here. But there is one thing to mention. You can only really take the batteries from one of the pills with the Loba market, depending on where you place it and how aggressively you want to place it. So the other team, knowing that, could go and grab the other pill and also get the resources that you've grabbed from the start of the game.
Ghost Gaming this time getting a little bit more aggressive again. You saw the last game, or the last round I should say, was kind of dictated by the amount of grenades that were thrown at the start, and even though they didn't get the damage down, they did manage to force down and confine Ghost Gaming to that lower area of Mirage Voyage, which meant that, you know, they could take the high ground, they could get a little bit of poke damage, and it was going to be so difficult for Ghost Gaming to fight up against that. So once again, just a little highlight that it's not all about the damage that you're doing in a game. It's area that you're denying your opponents to play.
Yeah, there's a lot more into arenas. I think at face value, everyone thinks it's just kind of 3v3 gunfights. The better team's going to win, but there is a lot more you have to think about. As I say, resource management, not just your own teams, but also recognizing what your other team has, knowing how many credits they have available to spend, trying to track that, trying to keep an eye on the kill feed as well. Once one of your players has gone down, you always need to know if you're a 2 or a 3. Lots of different things that just need either 1 or 2 players to kind of take it in themselves and say, look, I will focus on this, you can focus on that, and make sure everyone has their role respectively.
Well, Noble, who have been playing this side of the map, are actually going to be closed down now by Ghost Gaming, who've decided to come and meet them. 6 will go up high here. 41 with the wingman. Isn't going to be doing too much damage, but look at this angle that he's managed to get now. Goes for the hip fire, and the bubble has been forced here from Noble. So Ghost Gaming should be able to line up a couple of shots, but bats will be popped and the cells will be popped alongside to make sure that both teams are up to full HP. And we're back to a little bit of a stalemate once again here.
Let's move this way.
Which I don't think I expected, if I'm completely honest. I wasn't expecting these slow rounds. I thought Ghosts were going to be a lot more fast about how they approach things. But credit to Noble for holding them back, not allowing them to play in an aggressive manner, hitting their shots when they need to. And Impulse, very low there, has to watch his back, shouldn't be pushed from behind because of the red, but at least he's aware of the possibility.
Zone does a lot of damage here in arenas as well, so be very, very careful the way that you're tiptoeing through that red. Ghost Gaming this time with the high ground. It's Noble who are kind of held underneath here, and I think the 6 is maybe thinking about using his grapple to get behind that pill, be a little bit of a bait for his teammates to try and push out from. We'll have to see how this one does play out, but looks like 6 is actually holding that angle. So for now, 6 is kind of the player to watch, as he's going to be trying to hold down the ground as Lucas tries to make a move. But again, it just looks like a little bit of desperation here, Dan. They're not quite sure on what their next move wants to be.
Yeah, Ghost have got a triangle here on Noble. They can watch all angles. As long as they play together, then they should be able to win it. It's a 2 versus 2, though, but knock on each side.
They're going to try and get the finish and the thirst. They will, so that'll be a confirmed 2v2 now. I'm not sure where the rest of the players are. I'm not sure quite what's going on. Well, it looks like Noble found themselves under the bridge, like trolls in a fairy tale. It is a straight 2v2 situation, as you saw. Maybe it's going to be a heal-off, as Impulse is looking to take a little bit of damage here. And heal-offs are something we are seeing more and more, it would seem, in arenas, Dan. One team not willing to fight.
Happens occasionally, doesn't it? You'd imagine the Wraith should win this, by the way, but if someone drops and does some damage, then the Wraith's not going to be able to get the chance to queue in. Love that from Ghost Gaming, taking the initiative, saying, we ain't having no heal-off against a Wraith, and Noble, unfortunately, very unaware of where the team is going to be dropping from, and Ghost take a 2-1 lead.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Love that from Ghost. Just saying, That's cool. You know, we hear the med kit being popped. We're going to drop down and we're going to get this round on the board. And now, once again, find themselves on map point. One round away, excuse me, from going up 2-0 in the series and finding themselves just one map away from taking the series overall. And again, it's a similar thing there from Noble. It feels like they don't want to make a play. They're kind of letting Ghost dictate how they want to adjust, how they want to play, what kind of positions they're going to take, and then trying to work from that. The only round they have won is the one where they were aggressive. They threw the nades, they got the high ground and tried to have an impact on the map themselves and how they wanted to move.
Yeah, this is a little bit better from Ghost. At least they're from Noble. At least they're trying to use the ultimate to get closer, trying to initiate an early fight instead, rather than be this kind of standoff, allowing Ghost Gaming to use their tactical knowledge to position themselves in a way where they can hold all angles and hold out Noble. I think that the end game of that last round said it all, really. There was no thought process of, oh wait, they don't have a Wraith. There's no way they're going for a heal off here. We have to just watch and face. And I don't think it can be down to just one player. I think you as the Wraith need to accept that you're not going to be using a medkit.
Or a similar position, almost exactly the same position, where we saw Ghost Gaming lose their only round so far of this matchup against Noble. However, big damage being done by the Eva Ray is going to be followed up, and that's going to be Pandxrz taking down the Gibraltar here of Racket. Oh my word, sliding out with the hip fire, and oh my, Ghost Gaming explode into action. And that is going to be the map going to then down 2-0 up in the series, and that was one hell of an exciting finish, and I think the 6 was the man doing the damage.
Yeah, 6, and I think Pandxrz was hitting shots as well. I mean, these are 3 who have the individual ability to win fights. If someone tries to take an engagement with them, they say, all right, well, we'll take the fight. We're going to hit our shots, and it's down to you guys. Even if you have a health advantage, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm impressed with what Ghost Gaming have done so far.
Ghost Gaming up 2-0 in the series, and we're going to go for a quick break now before we get back for what could be our first match point of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Welcome back, everybody, to the UMG Champions Apex Legends Arena $10,000 Invitational. Taylor Reflections Noble, of course, joined by Gaskin on set. Well done, boys, for the first cash chats, even giving you compliments, saying you nailed it. And I think you guys did. When it comes down to the pacing, man, Noble just, they just really didn't try to establish themselves at all. That includes Overflow, really Overflow being that big 3-0, and obviously Party Crasher being a 3-1. Bit of a standoffish that I'm used to seeing. And Gaskin, you brought up a great point. Resource management seemed to be pretty critical on certain rounds, especially in those standoffs. And Ghost was kind of doing a little bit of a better job than that. Metro hitting beautiful shots, wasting those bats on the side of Noble, and obviously the good IGL takes control of that, calls out numbers for his team.
Yeah, Ghost just were on top of everything. Tactically, they have had it in the bag so far. Noble haven't even been able to come close. There was one round which was, if anything, a little bit of a mistake from Ghost, just allowing one player to be isolated. That's the one thing you cannot do in arenas. You cannot let one player have to face 2 or 3 people on their own. But alas, they still managed to win Party Crasher 3-1, so I don't think they'll be too disheartened by it.
And Onset, yeah, I mean, you know, even going back to Overflow, for me, at least personally, I was surprised to see 6 getting off of Gibraltar, which is what he ran in the first tournament, now rocking Loba. You mentioned more of a dive meta, or at least both of you guys were kind of saying that. Loba seems to be working quite well, and it's very much a pace-setting legend to have on your inventory, where Noble might be able to capitalize off that. Do you think Noble isn't capitalizing off of Loba as much as they should, or do you even think maybe that's not even something that's in play?
It's tough to do. It's something that you can do. I think I mentioned during the cast, when you have a Lobra on your opposition's team, because of the fact that they're going to drop that black market more often than not and be looking to steal away resources, you do have the ability to push up and show more presence on the map and maybe create a 3v2 situation very, very quickly. But you have to be completely on the same page with your team, and you have to spot out where that player is. And sometimes if they don't push as well, you can have map control, but it doesn't matter, because then resources start to play against you, because Loba can steal away those men. So
sure,
it's interesting to watch. And I think you also saw, even though Loba does maybe lag behind a little bit, if you want to talk about how the team's moving up the map, initially you do have the bracelet as well to just use to queue towards your teammates and kind of catch up. So it's, again, a development in meta. Loba is something we're seeing more and more in competitive Apex Legends, both in BR and in arenas now. And I feel like she is an S-tier pick, in my personal opinion, in arenas. I think she offers so much that it's difficult to ignore.
Yeah, fair enough. And Girl, even in the first tournament, when we've had a chance to really watch Arena for the first time, was like, why aren't teams using Loba? She was kind of ahead of the meta and said, Loba has great value. We just didn't see it. I saw a lot in ranked, but that's pub play, much different than competitive play. It's nice to see Loba coming into the mix. Round one, obviously, you have to establish yourself early on, though. If you're the opposite team playing against a Loba, don't think Noble is doing that. Maybe that's where they can capitalize. We're loading into the map, though, and I can't wait to see map 3. I really hope Noble fights back. I truthfully do, but I just don't see it happening unless they establish control early on, which they've been failing to do. They do a great job at converting first bloods, but they don't get first bloods too often. But that's what they're going to have to work on. Either way, Onset Gasket, take it away. Map number 3 is going to be a fun one. Hopefully, Noble, they can answer back.
Well, I'm going to have to see if they can answer back. My question to you, Dan, is the pace of this game being a little bit slower as we move over to artillery now and a little bit more range going to help the Noble get back into this a little bit? Because at the moment, it feels like every time there's a straight 3v3, which is close quarters, Ghost are just kind of wiping the floor with them. There's, we can't really dress it up. We're not going to sit here and go, it's been really close, it's been really tight, because it hasn't. Is the pace of this and the fact that we're moving over to artillery, we might see some snipers come into play, going to help them?
No, I don't think it
Savage
is.
Dan is back.
I think you could give Noble an extra player at this point. I still think Ghost would win it. I just think Ghost have very much the brains here. That they know exactly where they want to be positioning themselves. They know really how to suffocate the enemy team. They're taking angles. They're ensuring it's not going to be easy for any sort of rotation from the spot that Noble are in. And Ghost just seem to have the upper hand. Artillery was a question mark for me when I first looked at these maps because of the high ground and because some of the circles are very much determined by who gets to the high ground first. And with a Loba composition, are you going to be able to get all 3 of your players up to that high ground if it is a circle transitioning over to that direction? But we've already seen with the Octane, with the Pathfinder, they are plenty quick enough, and also Loba has been able to join with the Bracelet after getting Black Market down. I do think that Black Market is most impactful in rounds 1 and 2, and then it becomes a little less so in round 2 and 3.
Well, here we go then. A chance for Ghost Gaming to close out the first series of the day in a convincing fashion, which is a slightly understating how dominant they have been so far, and already trying to be aggressive, move up on the artillery side towards these bunkers and already sharing out some meds that have been collected. However, we are seeing a little bit of a change in composition here, Dan. You see there is no Loba this time on the side of Ghost Gaming. They've actually decided to pick up Horizon, which is a very, very interesting pick for me.
Another character that can elevate themselves to the high ground. I guess it makes sense on artillery. It means that they are going to be a little bit more aggressive here against Noble. And when they do have to transition to that high ground, it's going to be very comfortable. And I'm not really surprised. I guess that the only surprise would be after winning 2 maps so comfortably, do you really need to be changing compositions? But I guess this can come down to their own individual practice, where they say, well, actually, we've got a composition for different maps. We are not just going to be playing the same 3 legends every single time. And I also love that. I love how compositions are going to change from map to map, and we'll see how Horizon plays out here.
I tell you what, if you get Horizon ult as well, and you get towards the end game where everyone's being pushed into each other, and you have a Horizon ult and some grenades, this is over. Horizon is one of the craziest characters for being able to eliminate a team almost instantaneously if you do get that wombo combo down. But that's going to be another question here for Noble to answer, and at the moment they can't really answer anything. They're all up in a corner. They're going to bubble forward and try and isolate one player, but after this play is made, I'm not sure they're going to have any ones to fall back on. However, Lucas does get the first knock, and Impulse is going to be able to trade out. 6 is the last player alive here, and it works out here for Noble. Finally, a little bit of confidence coming out from them. They bubble onto a player to isolate him, and they get that round on the board.
Yeah, that was a mistake by Ghost. Again, they were trying to take angles. They were trying to surround Noble Gaming so that they could just force them into a situation where they could kind of herd them into their own bullets. But didn't work out. Noble sussed it out pretty early. And as you say, just kind of jumped on one of the players with the bubble. Even if it was 2 players, they had a 3 versus 2. It didn't work out in round 1 of map 1, but this time it has worked out. And maybe, just maybe, this could be the turnaround for Noble. I know I was a little bit harsh, and I said even if you give them an extra player, I don't think they'd win this against Ghost. That was probably slightly excessive, but you know me, I like to be a little bit harsh sometimes. And maybe that harshness is just kind of seeped through here, the interwebs, to Noble's performance.
It's a tough love. It's the tough love. It's how we work as a duo. It's how maybe Noble need to think about working with each other at the moment. And Noble will be taking the high ground almost immediately here. And you can see they do have the advantage. They've managed to get up there first. And Metro's playing a little bit slower here for Ghost. Playing on top of the double-story bunker building. 76, that headshot is going to hurt those. 6 fires across at Lucas, who's down to around 5 or 10 HP and going to be forced to retreat here and slow heal as well. Six is taking a little bit of damage himself, but does have the Phoenix kit. Plenty of other meds to work with. So that's allowed Ghost to get some height and at least to move towards that high ground that we're talking about, the Great Wall of Artillery, as now we're actually going to see Impulse on the flank. Manages to get the first knock here and using his ability to jump into the void to get back into position. And now Ghost Gaming taking complete control of the high ground.
So important as a Wraith, if you do get that knock, you are the first player to actually initiate in the fight, be able to get out of it. That's why Wraith can be very handy indeed, just jumping into the void where you cannot be taken down. But it looks like Ghost are going to be able to get back up to a 3 here.
Yeah.
Noble not able to take advantage of it just yet.
A little bit of a misplay, in my opinion, here from Noble, not taking advantage of that knock and not being able to at least get the finish. Or at least do a little bit more damage when they have the 2v3 situation in their favor. But you can see that Rak's got the longbow in his hand, and if this door opens, he can squeeze a bullet through there and do a lot of damage. So it's going to be interesting to see how this is played. However, Impulse now going to be taken down as Ghost Gaming will make this a 2v2. Pandxrz popping the battery here. We'll have the ability, maybe if has had the Q available, to do some damage. Lucas not going to be doing too much, and now all of a sudden, Noble, who got the first knock, remember, find themselves in a situation where they can lose this one down.
Yeah, at least Rak has a battery to work with here, and I'm not sure about Ghost, whether they've actually got any resources left, but with Longbow and Mozambique as a Gibraltar, this ain't going to be fun. I'm going to say that. This is going to be an uncomfortable watch if you're a Gibraltar main. I feel like Ghost, if they time this correctly, they could very much punish the Gibby.
The Gibby's going to have to drop, and he's going to be hitting the head as well. 34, and that's the end of things. That is a mistake coming in from Noble. And good recovery coming in from Ghost Gaming, showing some resilience there after finding their first player getting knocked. But again, Dan, even though Noble got that first round on the board, they probably feel they should have made that one too.
Yeah, Noble should have really capitalized on getting the initial knock, but again, that's sometimes the issue of playing a composition which is slightly slower by having the Gibraltar and not having other legends that can kind of jump on another team very quickly. It is important, if you are the Wraith, that you do sometimes go for flanks. You do take those 1v1 engagements because you can get out for free, but there has to be that communication with your team to say, look, I'm into the void, now you need to push up, you do as much damage as possible, and then I'll re-enter the fight. But instead, he exited the fight, they all didn't engage, and everyone was able to get back up to a full set of health, or at least close to. Ghost Gaming, though, right off the rip, Rak, ensuring that he makes up for last round.
Yeah, Rakkinishu put on his back. I should say, puts Pandxrz on his back as the longbow shots will hit, and now Noble have the advantage, and they're looking to be aggressive. This is what they need to do. This is the mistake that they need to learn from that last round. Impulse is trying to chase, and they should be able to at least get the finish here, so they'll have a permanent 2v3 as they do get that finish onto Pandxrz. Much better recognition of the situation here coming in from Noble.
Yeah, guns are going to be in a better situation as well here, and this round, and now Ghost Gaming are going to have to try and come up with something special in a 2 versus 3. Very important to be collecting the materials, the resources as you go around the map, just so when you go into the next round, you're going to have plenty to work with, even though by this point, you should be able to buy what you want for the most part. That could be an extra grenade, that could be an extra battery. As this is some amazing wingman shots coming out from Metro, but you can't really capitalize on them when you're in a 2 versus 3.
You're going to be forced in by the ring as well. We'll be safe for now, just playing on this staircase. You can see Six is unfortunately looking like he might be zeroed out, though. 45 here from the wingman of Lucas is going to do some damage, but you can see they're completely committing to this player. One bullet's going to do it, and now it's a 1v3, and Noble have done a much better job of isolating players in this round than we saw on the previous round, not making the same mistakes.
Yeah, not allowing Ghost to get away with taking angles here, trying to shoot from multiple directions. And even though there's some amazing wingman shots coming out from Metro, this is the beginning of the end. He's going to get pushed and will fall, and Noble will take the lead again here on Artillery and find themselves 1 round away from getting their first map of this best of 5, which could really turn things around. I did have a question mark above Artillery before we started this one. After watching what Ghost Gaming did in the previous tournament, I didn't think they looked that comfortable on it, despite the wins they were able to get. And Noble seemed to have been kind of changing their playstyle a little bit to adjust to things. And you alluded to it, Mark, and I kind of rubbished it a bit with the fact that the snipers come into the equation. It has helped Noble. They very much have some incredible sniper players on their team.
My question to you is, do you think the Ghost Gaming have got a little bit ahead of themselves here? Going up 2 in the series, they're getting that first knock so easily. as in they're falling, and they seem a little bit careless in the way that they're approaching a couple of these rounds. And the switch of composition for me was a little bit of a surprise, to be honest with you. As I say, when you're having success, sometimes it's important to stick with what is working, not try and change things up. Maybe they've had success with Horizon on this map. We don't know, of course, but do you feel that's the case, or do you think this is just Noble adapting a little bit better?
I think it's a little bit of both. Noble certainly are adapting a little bit better. They do seem more comfortable on artillery with the long-range fights and the fact that snipers have come into play ever so slightly. But I agree. I think the composition change maybe was a little bit arrogant. Perhaps they have practiced with Horizon. As you say, we can only allude to what we think might happen, but this is where it could really change. We've got the ultimate available for Pandxrz. He went down first in the last round, so wasn't able to use it. Maybe Horizon plus this ultimate is going to be something game-breaking that we've not really seen before in arenas that Ghost Gaming know of, that we don't, that Noble don't, and they're going to suck everyone into the black hole. Grenades are going to come flying through, and then suddenly they're going to be 2-2. So we'll wait and see what happens here with the ultimate. I think that's going to be the kicker here for me.
Yeah, I like how Pandxrz is playing the scout as well. It looks like the plan here is to keep Horizon alive for as long as physically possible, so that as that zone closes, that black hole becomes more and more influential, especially if you notice as well 3 frag grenades in the back pocket for Horizon. So that really shows that they want to make that play and they want to make it work. But for Noble, it's a case of surviving for now, sticking together, as we're going to see Lucas do exactly that, moving up to Rakkinishu, controlling this high ground for now. The question is, when does the black hole play come in? Well, they're going to leave it too late, as the shots will come in with the 301. There is that black hole coming in from Pandxrz just to close, or should I say zone off Noble a little bit, but maybe not getting the damage that he would have wanted to.
Yeah, that's not the play I was expecting. It seemed like a defensive black hole in the end. I thought it was going to be one thrown at the other 3, then grenades used alongside it just to try and get some damage, but at least it has forced one member of Noble off the high ground. So at the moment, Ghost do have a little bit of an advantage. Rack's also taken a considerable amount of damage, and here's the push.
And is going to be moving in with that Eva 8. The bubble goes down though, so he's going to have to slow things down just for a few moments, as his teammates will cover his left shoulder here, and any damage that's done, you can see he's just desperate, just got his finger on that accelerator, desperate to take advantage of anything that does fall. 84, he's going to do a little bit of damage. However, a fully gold Rampage is also going to answer with some damage, and unfortunately, not going to be enough. A 6 will re-poke here with the wingman and get that finish. It's a 2v3 now, as Metro is just going to be melting the team underneath. And oh my word, this one's going to be over before I can finish a sentence. And there it is, Ghost Gaming tying things up now at 2-2.
That was better from Ghost, even though it wasn't the ultimate play. They were able to at least get a positional advantage there. One member of Noble was down low. As soon as there was a damage advantage, Ghost Gaming then decided they were going to send one player across the zip. Could have been a very bad situation if Noble had realized where that player was, but as soon as Noble dropped off the high ground, they just gave the round to Ghost Gaming, especially because one player had managed to transition to the other side of the map. They had all the angles to work with. It was impossible to heal up behind the little Humvee or whatever car it is that's there. And now Ghost Gaming have tied this one up, and of course, you have to win by at least 2 rounds, so it means that we go into first to 4 now at this point.
Now we move to the other side of the map once again, as you see both teams converging on each other. Lucas just using these sandbags for a little bit of a head glitch. Not the best one you could possibly ask for, but it would do for now, as he has the 301 in hand with the 2 times on it. So being able to spray down a few players. There's an R301 with the 3 times on it on the other side, which is going to allow a little bit more range. An interesting battle going on between these 2 players, as Metro looks to get the information and do a little bit of scouting for his team, but a little bit of a slower round here, Dan. Both teams just making sure that they don't give away that first blood, and at 2-2 is no surprise to see that.
Yeah, we're not seeing as much sniper rifle action as we get to the later rounds, and you can upgrade the 301, the flatline, and those automatic weapons do hit hard, but we're also seeing how the wingman can still be favored by some players, just with its ability to kind of hit shots where maybe an automatic wouldn't be able to get the same amount of damage. If you only just see a head popping out of a corner, you can hit very hard with that wingman. Ghost Gaming trying to position themselves again to see if they can get some angles here on Noble. 6 in particular is trying to go on a little flank, but has been spotted out by Impulse, so Impulse has done his job there.
Lovely spray coming in here from Lucas, though, with that 301, managing to get the damage done. However, Panda's in a good position for his teammates because he's managed to exchange a little bit of damage, but the constant pressure coming in here means a bubble can go down, and this might be the first knock going down to Noble. However, haven't managed to convert as yet. Still a 3v3, and Lucas is going to have to back down, which isn't going to give his two teammates the cover that they had a few moments ago. But as you can see in the feed, Metro was actually knocked by Impulse. So it's a 2v3 now in favor of Noble.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to get the res here, so instead it's about trying to reposition as Pandxrz does an incredible amount of damage, but not enough to get a knock. Needs to regroup. Noble's still going to have the extra player, are going to get the finish just to ensure it's going to be 3v2 regardless of what happens here. And the resources on Noble's side means that they're going to be at a full health here, as Lucas again will just shred the shields off of one of the players.
Another one falls. Rakkinishu picks up 6. Last player alive is going to be Pandxrz. Dodging and diving, dipping and ducking. Managing to get some decent damage. If he can finish off this kill quickly, then maybe he could turn this one around. However, he can't get the job done. And Noble now will answer back in the series as they take a 3-2 advantage here on map number 3.
Yeah, so map point for Noble. Again, their second chance at trying to secure the victory here and take this to at least to map number 4. But Ghost Gaming, it seems like they're far more comfortable when the circles are transitioning more towards the high ground. They seem to have a better idea of where they want to be fighting, where they want to be taking. However, when it's kind of in the middle of the map or on the side opposite the high ground, they get a little bit lost and are unsure which angles to be taking. Noble seem to have the better capability of being able to get that initial knock. We've seen time and time again how huge the first knock is. Very rarely when a team goes down 3 versus 2, they're going to be able to come back into things. It does happen on occasion, but not so much as of yet.
Well, it's interesting for me that depending on what side of artillery we've ended up on, it seems like one team has an advantage over the other. Ghost Gaming seems to have an advantage on the high side, and Noble seem to have an advantage over this low side where the bunkers are, and it's showing it again as interesting to see. 6 just kind of just flew in and gave away that first knock. However, those shots coming in from Impulse, very, very impressive. Metro going to be finished off by Rakkinishu, and this one looks like it could be over before it started here at 2v1. The bubble goes down, and Noble will win match point here. They will put their first map on the board down, and it's a good response from them after really not showing up in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I will hold my hands up, and I will say I did not expect that whatsoever. I thought Noble were down and out, but they've come and shown some great resilience here after getting slapped around in maps number 1 and 2. Some questionable decisions from Ghost Gaming, maybe some a little bit of arrogance, I'd say, overconfidence, whether it be down to their legend picks, whether it be down to 6 just flying in, just yeeting himself into 3 players at the end there. That was slightly bizarre, but I do think he mistimed his grapple, because what he wanted to do, I think he wanted to grapple, slide, and get underneath them, but instead he hit a wall and found himself very much staring Wraith one-on-one, saying, well, this is over. Life is done.
Awkward.
And, not going to work.
Yeah, we've all been in that situation. I've messed up more than my fair share of grapples. I've also hit brilliant grapples where I've done loads of damage, and then you haven't moved up and capitalized on that huge amount of that. I keep repeating the same thing. I love saying it because I see your brain flashing back. That's what happens. Let's take a look at the replays, Dan. Let's leave that and let's look at what happened in the last game, because like I mentioned that last round, it seemed like depending on what side the circle went was depending on who actually won the rounds.
Yeah, high ground definitely seemed to favour Ghost Gaming. Noble just didn't seem to have as much knowledge when it came to controlling those zones, or they just weren't as comfortable with those fights. I think Noble were thinking about where the circle was going more than Ghost Gaming was, and that meant that Noble dropped off the high ground a little bit quicker because they were very aware that the circle was moving, whereas Ghost Gaming were like, well, why would we give up high ground here? We can just kill them before the circle comes in. But because the circle wasn't going to high ground as often, Noble seemed to be a little bit more comfortable getting central zone, getting angles, forcing Ghost into a situation where they had to kind of leave themselves vulnerable as they approached that rotation, as they tried to get into the circle. And it meant that Noble, they get their first map on the board, and this is a shot. Ghost Gaming, realistically, I was expecting a 3-0 sweep here.
Yeah, especially after the way that the first 2 maps did play out, and it was that first knock. Every single time we went to the bunker side of artillery, it just seemed to fall down to Noble. And after one round where I think it's one of those rounds where it gives you the realization of what you're doing wrong, when they lost the 2v3 after getting the initial knock. From then, as soon as they got a knock, they were so much more aggressive, and and so much more impressive. And it's another opportunity for them to do the same thing now as we move over to Thermal Station, one of the close quarter maps that we do see, with two teams, being forced to fight pretty early on due to the size and the lack of cover a lot of the times on this map. I feel like Noble could come back into this one. I wouldn't be surprised to see them take this map away from Ghosts if they play with that same kind of aggression that we saw in the previous map. However, I also expect Ghost to focus up a little bit here. I feel like that was a bit of a disappointment for them. I think there might be a bit of getting carried away with things after the way that the first two maps went.
I think this is going to come down to Wraith here on Thermal Station. We've seen a lot of flanks, or at least the last arena tournament that we commentated, there was a lot of flanking ability for the Wraith on Thermal, where you can kind of creep around, get an off angle, surprise the other team, do some damage, try and get a knock, and then you queue out and get back to your team. It can be incredibly important. But on the other side, maybe we're going to see Loba come back into things now for Ghost Gaming, which we've already seen has made a huge impact. We're not going to see the snipers, or you'd imagine we're probably not going to see as much snipers here. So maybe Noble aren't going to be as comfortable here on Thermal as they just were on Artillery. But I'd love to see Noble make it 2-2 and just kind of force Ghost Gaming back here, take him out of the comfort zone and say, hey, you might have come top 2 last time, but we're here to play in the group stages and we're not going to be run over. We're not just going to show our bellies and allow you to win this game comfortably.
It's certainly going to be confidence refilled after that performance on the last map, as we're ready for our next map now. It's still an uphill battle for them, though. They've still got to win 2 maps on the bounce to take home this series, and with the way that Ghost have been playing, and we have seen the highs at which they can play in those first 2 maps down, it's going to be difficult for them to do. But I mean, Ghost Gaming, for me, let themselves down a little bit on that last map. I'm going to come out and say it. As I say, I call a spade a spade. I feel like the way that they dominated in those first 2 games was down to them, showing Noble respect still, even though, they did have the upper hand a lot of the battles. I just feel like they got carried away with things a little bit in that last map. I think they just, expected to win before they'd actually put the work in to get the win on the ball.
Yeah, and I said it was always a possibility, just disrespect being shown, and it finally was coming into play in map number 3 after a slapping. They were dominating. They were easily winning their fights. They were winning their 1v1s. They were winning their 3v3s, and there wasn't a chance for Noble. So I think they were overconfident. They got to a point where they said, look, let's just try and yeet into fights. Let's take the engagements. We're not focusing as much on angles, but also Noble were more aware of what the attempt was coming from of Ghost Gaming. They knew that they were trying to kind of put one player on the flank, get an angle, managing to force them into a little triangle. And Noble said, hey, you know what? Well, when that happens, let's jump on the 2 players, or let's jump on the 1 player, whichever is closer. We've got a Gibby bubble. We can really isolate that player. And it worked incredibly well in some of the opening rounds. And now here, Ghost Gaming have to go back to, I think, what worked for them. Get back on the Loba, get those resources, play it slow if you have to. You have a better shot. Ghost Gaming have a better shot than Noble. There is no question about that, but they need to play to their advantages here.
Well, I'm going to have to see how this does play out as we do go into our map 4 now, which is going to be over on a Thermal Station. We're going to start off with the point of view of Ghost Gaming, having just lost that previous game on Artillery and had their series lead cut down from 2-0 to 2-0. And it looks like Metro is going to be trying to get a few funky angles here, as we are going to see it's pulling over to the dome side. So it looks like they're playing maybe for some meds, maybe a little bit of a change of rotation and trying to play things from a slightly different angle. But one thing to point out, Dan, is once again, Ghost Gaming changing composition. This time it will be Horizon out and it will be Gibraltar in.
Again, it is another change that I can understand. I said go back to Loba, go back to what you know, but we've seen how important the Gibraltar bubble has been, and especially in a close quarter map like Thermal Station, where there's a lot of early engagements and a lot of open space, that bubble can make or break the game. We've already seen 1 bubble get dropped, though, so that is going to be advantage to the team who didn't drop the bubble. I didn't actually see who did drop the bubble, unfortunately, but Ghost Gaming certainly seem to have the advantage in terms of map presence right now, whereas Noble are all kind of stuck in this building in the middle.
So Noble only got 2 methods of exit. They managed to find a few angles, though, and managed to escape for now, and a headshot for 65 is certainly going to help their cause, as 6 is going to be forced to retreat and pop a battery and won't be able to shoot his gun for too long, but it doesn't matter because Metro is in position to shoot his, as the wingman is going to hit hard. That's flesh damage, and that is the signal now for Ghost Gaming to move in. You can see they were trying to establish a little bit of presence, trying to get in a position where they can capitalize. However, Noble have managed to stabilize for now.
So it was Noble who used their bubble. It means Ghost Gaming still have theirs if they want to use it in a defensive manner or an aggressive manner in this engagement. I don't think they'll need to at this point because they've managed to surround Noble. They're going to force them out of this building at some point. They just have to play the patient game, trust in their shots, which is something they've been able to do throughout the majority of this series. So I wouldn't be too worried if I was Ghost, but if I'm Noble here, you've got to try and make a play. Maybe it comes down to the Wraith. Maybe you try and go for a distraction technique into the void, try and get behind them. As you do that, maybe then you push the other 2 players out to initiate some damage. It is not a nice situation to be in when you're stuck down here.
Very, very difficult to play from. Feel like bubbling out. I feel like bubbling out on one of the doors is the only way that they can maybe isolate a player.
They don't have the bubble either.
They don't have the bubble. That's the problem. So all of the options that we've come up with don't exist. So it's going to be gun-ho. It's going to be Hail Mary. It's going to be let's try and find one player, focus on him and get that knock. But, I mean, for Noble at the moment, they managed to actually escape, which is something to be positive about.
Yeah, but it's now what they do from it. Metro's actually taken some shots, so this is the initiation from Noble. They have to push in. They have to capitalize on this damage.
Bubble goes down on one side. Noble will lose one player, though, as Impulse will fall. Gibraltar's going to slide out, and Lucas will be taken down, you would imagine, in the next few seconds. And he is alongside his teammate. And it was always going to be an uphill battle that round for Noble. Ghost Gaming do manage to get that round on the board. And it got a little bit shaky. Got a little bit nervous for a few moments there for Noble. Or for Ghost, I should say, as Noble did make their move out, but they managed to hold on. Managed to get that round on the board, most importantly.
It's also really funny at the end of arena maps when the players just drop dead. It's almost like Toy Story when Andy comes in the room and they all just fall to the ground instantly as we watch.
Exactly what it is.
It's a pleasure to watch just to see everyone fall down to their death. But yeah, that was good from Ghost Gaming. It was the bubble, really. The fact that they were able to keep it, they did win them the fight in the end. They were able to throw the bubble onto Metro, who was taken down to low shields. Noble weren't able to capitalize on the damage they'd initially put onto him. So it meant that Ghost Gaming could bubble that one player, then push the other 2 players out to do the damage back. Metro was able to get back up to full battery, and then the rest was history. So now Noble 1-0 down. And of course, they have to win this map as well. Otherwise, they'll be dropping down to the loser's bracket in this group.
Just thought, and this is me going off on a tangent here as the game is going on, there should be a Buzz Lightyear skin brought in for Valkyrie.
Absolutely should.
That should 100% be a thing, you know? And with the skin as well, her missile swarm just turns into a laser. You know,
I'm all for
it's $1 million idea, but for now, let's talk about the game that's going on in front of us, because Ghost Gaming are making an aggressive push into the bubble of Noble. A couple of shots going to be missed here by Impulse, which is going to cost them. That's now a 3v2 in the favor of Ghost. Lucas doing a lot of damage. Now it's all up to Rakkinishu, who tries to move in. Pandxrz is going to be in a position to do the damage to let his teammate move in and finish that one off, and that's going to be Ghost Gaming now up by 2. And what a round, Dan. $1 million idea. Ghost Gaming being aggressive and going up 2-0. What more could you want?
We've had everything. We've had Toy Story. We've had ideas. We've had fists thrown, left hooks. I mean, you always know things are going bad, right, when you resort to the left hook. And if you're in a 1 versus 2 and you're suddenly starting to melee, you are not winning that round. Unless the other team completely chokes, it's very much going to go in the favor of your opposition there. Ghost Gaming have a 2-0 advantage. They need one more round now, and they will win this series, moving on to the qualification match of this group. And you'd imagine, with how things have played out and how comfortable Ghost Gaming look here on Thermal, it's probably going to head that way. Here comes the bouncy bounce.
They're going to get to Dome first, which means they'll have positional advantage. They will have the high ground here, Ghost Gaming, and on that point, that's absolutely massive for them. You can see that the line of sights that have already been gifted to them by using that jump pad. And now Noble really are in an uphill battle. However, a little cheeky 71 tickle on the scalp is going to at least let them move up into some sort of position. However, you can just see they're just being oppressed at the moment. It's so difficult to move up when you give up this high ground advantage early. You've got to play the waiting game, the longer game, and hope that there's going to have to be moves made. However, Noble having moves made on them as Ghost decide to hit the accelerator, get forward, and force the bubble early.
Yeah, Ghost noticed there were 2 players isolated. They were on their own, but I don't think this is going to work out too well. Metro's the last player and will fall, so Noble holds strong. Ghost Gaming trying to take advantage of 2 players just slightly at a distance from the third, but the Wraith was able to quickly get back into the equation. And I think that was maybe slightly unnecessary.
Yeah,
if I'm completely honest.
I'm calling it. Yeah, that was the throw. I agree with you. I don't think they needed to make that. They had complete height advantage, map advantage, everything they could have wanted, and Noble had no way to move as that circle crossed without allowing themselves to take some damage. So Ghost Gaming again, maybe just thinking we want to get aggressive here. We want to try and close this one out in a fashion that really puts a marker down, but it just gifted Noble a way back into the series, and something that we've seen from them. You give Noble an inch, they will happily take it.
They will indeed. So Ghost need to now kind of evaluate that and say, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Is Rack on his own here? No, he's not. Okay, he does have support. I was worried that Ghost might have been able to isolate him. Certainly they know he is in this building. And Ghost might be able to surround him. He is slightly isolated from his team. Has to be careful.
Pulse going to be trying to play a little off angle as grenades will be delivered into that central structure. Panda's doing some good damage with the flat line. Arcstar's going to be trying to defend that door, and now the push is going to come in. It's a 2v2 inside of the bubble. 57, 114. Add them all up, and all it adds up to is Panda's getting the first knock here onto Impulse. However, going to have to back out of this situation, and now Noble managed to turn this one around. So a little bit of over-aggression once again, costing Ghost Gaming, and just like that, Dan, 2 rounds in a row, we're all tied up.
Well, that stick was absolutely everything. Otherwise, Pandxrz was going to be able to shield back, get back to full health, and they take the 3 versus 2. The 2 players would have done the damage. He could have come in and cleaned things up, but instead, Arcstar, I get it, he grapples away from the team because he doesn't want to damage them, but unfortunately, it's just a real shame when you get stuck. That's how important Arcstars can be, how important grenades can be in this game mode. It can really swing the game in your favor. Really went against the grain there. I feel like Ghost was somewhat comfortable, even though, again, yes, it was an aggressive push, and maybe they timed it incorrectly. They had done the damage. They probably had the advantage. Noble Gaming tie up 2-2, which means we go to first to 4.
Panda's not getting the damage you would have wanted with that flat line. Just a little tickle on the shields, and Arcstar going to be thrown out. And now you can see that Ghost Gaming want to try and take a little bit more control of this central structure where Noble have been kind of pivoting from. But no damage really done as yet between the 2 teams. Little tickle on the shields here of Impulse is going to force him to momentarily be out of the battle, but one thing that you can take away, Dan, is the amount of grenades that are being loaded up by both teams at the moment.
I was going to say, it's just Arcstars galore. There's, I think, 3 purchased by each player at the moment. Of course, as you get to these later rounds, you do have more materials to work with. You can purchase plenty of grenades and plenty of bats and cells. It's Noble who have managed to find themselves central again. They've been trying to take advantage of this structure throughout every single round and have really dominated it. It didn't work in the initial ones, but as we've gone further into it, there has been some benefits. The one downside, though, is they've not been able to get the supply crate. Ghost Gaming will be able to get all the weapons. A gold 301 for Metro is very much a terrifying thing.
Certainly is. Certainly going to be able to do a little bit of damage as we move forward. The Rampage was there as well, but opting for the 301. And Noble once again, or inside of this structure, and now making their move, and they have to as well with the way that the circle is moving. And try and solo Metro here. He's managed to get away for now, so good job for Metro to retreat, and not only that, get the damage done. That's going to be the bubble burn. So now you have to feel like Ghost Gaming have the advantage here now. Now, can they capitalize? Can they play a little bit more patiently than they have in the previous 2 rounds?
Certainly patience has been lacking so far. I think they've thought they've had an advantage in some situations, and they maybe haven't had as much of an advantage as they thought. Metro will be able to get up at least the full shields here. Some nice shots coming out from that R301. That's what it can do. It absolutely shreds. And now Ghost Gaming have the 3 versus 2 advantage, and 6 has already done damage to Lucas. And there's going to be the round. Ghost Gaming back on to series point.
And that's the difference. Just a few seconds, just a little pause in the momentum, a little pause in the aggression, just waiting for the other team to have to be forced to make the move and then taking advantage of it. That's what won them the round. And now Ghost Gaming, like you say, map point, series point. A chance for them to move into the next round. And for Noble, I just want to see them try and not play around that central structure. I feel like they're getting caught and kind of siphoned in there a little bit too easily.
But if you're the likes of G2, My Little Phony, Aqualix, who have all performed well in the previous tournament, maybe not so much Aqualix, they didn't have a great UMG, but we saw them perform well in the previous European tournament. I know there's a big difference. You're looking at Ghost Gaming here and you're saying there are kind of chinks in the armor. There is definitely the ability to take these guys down when they get overconfident, but maybe this is a strategy from Ghost Gaming. They're not playing to their very tactical ability. Instead, they are just being a little bit more aggressive at times, just taking fights. They know they're the better side, and they should be able to close it out here.
Skynade gonna go in. Let's see if we get some numbers popping up on our screen. No, there is not. So 6 will have the defensive bombardment though, and that is gonna clean one team off the top. Noble though gonna have the bubble and deciding, hey, this is almost like we're playing BR right now, as we're seeing some classic Gibby on Gibby action. No damage being done. So now it's just back to that standoff around the dome. The inside controlled by Ghost Gaming, the outside and the height controlled by Noble.
I like this. Hold the Arc Star, see if you can get a stick as someone drops. I think that one's just going to miss, but Arc Stars go to and fro. No damage being able to get out of either of them. There is 2 bubbles for 6. So at least they've got plenty to work with here in terms of pushes. They can use one defensively and one offensively if they would like. But for the moment, they just need to focus on how they're going to get out of this building, depending on where the circle moves. Right now, they're comfortable, but if it does move away from this little donut, then certainly being on the low ground can be disadvantageous at some points.
Rakkinishu trying to get a little bit cheeky, a little bit bold. Tries to hit a few vault shots here. I'm going to see that nobody's really going to have to be forced to do anything as that ring does close. The dome will be inside of it for now, so we're starting to see resources depleted a little bit as far as things like projectiles, grenades, etc., which is going to leave it down to a straight gunfight between the two. A little bit of damage going to be done here. 54 now. Are they going to move on this? Rakkinishu decides that no, they're just going to hold the angles. You have the ability to leave through one of these 2 top doors or that one down the bottom where you can bubble out. And I think that might be how Ghost Gaming have to play this one. Maybe bubbling out on that bottom door and trying to play some of the head glitches that are around. It's going to be interesting to see how this one kind of develops in this next 26 seconds when teams will finally be forced to move a little bit.
Yeah, I think Noble were just being patient to see where this circle was going to be going, whether it's going to be a case that Ghost have to move next time. We've seen how patience really has paid off throughout this series for either team, to be completely honest. Ghost have made more mistakes than Noble have when it comes to not being patient enough. So Noble trying to demonstrate on their side how they can also be patient. Still 1 bubble left for Rack 2. So they've got the ability to get out. Styx is trying to take an angle here, and actually they've got out unexpectedly here.
Yeah, playing that low ground, making that escape, and now they got a little bit of a head glitch to play with themselves. And now Noble going to be forced to bubble down. They will do that and fall into the zone just momentarily. A little bit of damage going to go down, and a straight bubble fight is where we find ourselves. Lucas is going to have to pop some meds. Either 8 shots are going to hit. Impulse will fall. Lucas will fall, and Rakkinishu just thought, what has just happened in front of my eyes? And the answer is Ghost Gaming have taken the map and have taken the series. They win here 4-2 on our map number 4. And you have to say that that was over, that bubble fight, extremely quickly and very, very impressively so from Ghost Gaming.
Yeah, every time we've seen a 3v3 engagement like that, it's been Ghost Gaming who have come out on top. It's not Noble's strength. Instead, it's usually their kind of way of kind of forcing mistakes, I think, out of Ghost Gaming. Ghost Gaming have just made some mistakes. Sometimes just by showing a little bit of vulnerability, it means the other team will push in. But Reflections, we've got our winner. Ghost Gaming have been able to take a pretty comfortable series.
Yeah, you know, I gotta say, though, I was happy Noble fought back. I really was. There was a comment in chat, not to call out the name. Normally I do. I would if I remembered it, but I don't. They were saying best of 5 is too much. You know, normally after 2 maps, we know exactly who's going to take this series, you know, and I guess you could make that argument. Ghost was up 2-0. They looked unstoppable. They really did. But then they started getting funky, did they not, right? I mean, you want to talk about variety being the spice of life? Well, I guess Ghost is, especially with 6. I mean, he rocks Loba to start the first 2 maps. He goes then with Horizon on artillery, and then switches over towards Gibby, which, by the way, Gibby is what he was rocking during the last UMG tournament. So it was kind of nice to see him go back to his roots there. And it makes sense on a map such as this. Gibby on Gibby action, as you guys called it, chat loved that one too, was the big things. That bubble fight on the final round was pretty big. But let's go ahead and recap, though. And, you know, Onset, we'll start with you because, again, 6 rocking so many different legends. Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. What are you thinking?
I think the theory behind every single legend pick was there. I think that it wasn't the legend picks that really let them down. And I'm saying let down as I look at artillery here, the one map that they did lose, that was just a little bit of overconfidence, I feel, in a few rounds from them, where they let Noble back into the game after, demolishing them 3-0, 3-1. It really wasn't close, those first two maps. And it's something we're seeing more and more. Different maps lend themselves to different legends and play styles. And I liked the pick of Horizon on artillery. Dan said, quite rightly so, you got that grav lift to try and retake high ground if you need to, if you're playing the artillery wall side. You've also got an amazing ultimate when you get down to a smaller circle that you can just absolutely annihilate a team. So it wasn't a legend pick so much to let them down. And going back to your little point there about best of 5, and people say maybe a best of 5 is too long. It allows teams to adapt, and that's what Noble did in map number 3. Pros are their best when they are given a situation and they have to adapt and overcome, and that what really shows the strength of a team and of a player. And when you have a best of 5, you have the ability to do that. If you have 2 maps that are close quarters, you get wiped, it's over. That would have been done in a best of 3. At least here, Noble had a way to find themselves back in. And when you get 2 teams that are kind of closing in on each other and fighting it out, that it goes down to that last game, and both teams kind of got the psychological edge on each other, that's where it becomes a hell of a watch.
And it might have been a psychological edge that Ghost had, at least off the first couple of maps. But like you said, Noble choosing to readjust themselves in map number 3, that's great for them. And, we have a lot of variety when it comes to the maps. Maybe artillery is one that Noble could dominate this tournament. After all, they do drop down to the loser bracket. Doesn't mean they're out for the tournament. They still have a chance to make it. And based off their performance against Ghost, who I heavily favorited in the Group B, I got to say, Noble might be my favorite to maybe be the second team to make it out and get revenge on Ghost a little bit later. Hey, Onset Gaskin, you killed it with the cast. It was incredible. I can't wait to obviously be joined by you guys in a little bit. But of course, I got to kick you off, and I'm going to be joined by Blazing Girl in just a second. But chat, don't go anywhere. The action's going to continue and unfold throughout the entirety of today and tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. Keep the conversation going in chat. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, though, the Apex action will continue.